The pirates. Franklin adjusts the flow of axiom in and around the device. It responds eagerly to his attempts, but it has nothing in the way of information to give. There is no information to be retrieved from the sphered-out cube. It's adorably that you think this can be salvaged, Professor Valiant says, and he sticks his hand clean in through the glowing sphere and tries to see if manipulating the device's hardware while it's active will do anything. It does not. I'm not sure what to say. Franklin notes as he starts trying to activate different portions in sequence as he starts understanding the device inside and out. He continues to fiddle with it until Chiria pokes him in the shoulder and he gives her an odd look. You're getting tunnel vision. Sorry, I didn't know about things like this, which is why you do not use disrupting axiom techniques in a delicate area, Professor Valiant says as Franklin seems to have a breakthrough and creates something within the sphere he then pokes. It is his own memory of figuring out how to store a memory within the sphere. Franklin notes. I was so sure that there was something there. No, it's gone. The energy was scattered from its legible patterns and incorporated into the background axiom after your little disruption, Professor Valiant says, and Franklin thinks before his eyes light up and he starts holding opposite corners of the sphere. His eyes widen and his communicator flies out of his pocket, and an all call to the nerd squad goes out. Gents, remind me of the temporal formulae. I have something that is irretrievably destroyed in the here and now. Going backwards is not possible, is his immediate answer. No, but pausing is in theory restoration might be as well. All right, maybe. What we have so far is, Professor Valiant begins before suddenly axiom in its purest form starts roiling away from Franklin. It grows denser and denser. More and more powerful duplicates of Franklin drift away from him to hold the corners, and he rises the entire Ulvari Charana device over his head. The sensation of axiom grows stronger and stronger as wind starts to howl and Chiria forces everyone back. He's unraveling the atmosphere around him down to pure energy for whatever this is, which means he's doing something big. Then the axiom begins compressing and it shifts. It feels like a warp drive in the middle of an axiom lane. The sheer sense of insane movement, even when perfectly, flawlessly still. Then there is darkness around the device, and for a single moment, it's clearly restored, bursting with information and energy, and Franklin's face is one of utmost fury, frustration, and a dawning realization as he pulls it down and it self-erases again. He has no way of reinforcing it even when he can restore it. There is a sizzling sound and the smell of something cooking, and he lets go of the blazingly hot Kuta with a shout of pain. It distorts as it hits the ground, and he jumps back. There is silence as Franklin clenches his burnt hands and glares at the now completely ruined Ulvari Charana device. Fucking catch-22s, Franklin growls out. It can be restored, but the moment it is restored, the local axiom distorts it and wipes it. The process of restoration creates an environment it can't be sustained in. Did you try to defy causality before admitting you made a mistake? No, I tried to nutshot causality in order to undo my mistake. But time is a raging bitch that you never actually win against. Just delay the consequences a bit. Franklin says, flexing his burnt palms and carefully directing the overly dense axiom in the area through them. His skin visibly bubbles, discolors, deflates, and then settles, returns to its natural color, and a moment later is back to normal. He holds out his hands over the wreck of the Ulvari Charana device, and the still hot Kutha pulls itself off the ground and glows very brightly before reshifting into its normal configuration. Repaired but frustratingly blank once more. Was the light totally necessary? I was bleeding off excess energies into light rather than more axiom. As dense as it is now moving, it too much might cause a null collapse. We're right at the edge. The device is now cold enough to hold, and he plucks it out of the air and considers. I can't restore the information. The fact you got so close is the only thing surprising about that statement, Professor Valiant states. I'm undaunted. You say impossible, I say try harder. Franklin says in a dismissive tone. Anyways, this thing is useless archaeologically, right? Yes, then, can I keep it? If I can make a bunch of them, then I can practice with them. Learn how to teleport without disrupting things like this. Or you could stop teleporting into sensitive areas. But that's merely self-restraint, not self-betterment, Franklin says. But I'll stop until I can show up as silly quiet as those Serbo sorcerers. Thank you. Wait, how silly quiet are they? You can't sense them coming or going. I'm clearly overstressed, as I had the mental image of waking up to you staring at me in the middle of the night. Professor Valiant's notes and Franklin snorts in amusement. But yes, keep the thing. If it stops you from damaging sites, then it's a good thing. So beyond my screw-up, how did it go? We need armored equipment to investigate a smuggler's shaft, or rather the area beneath it. But we've determined it was a hidden base and storage facility for hunters and game trappers that had an endemic smuggling problem. At the time of its abandonment, it was primarily used by Lopen, but something caused a breakout in violence. It was close range, vicious, and over quickly before the survivors destroyed the entrance to bury the tomb and slipped away down the shaft. At least that's our current hypothesis, Professor Valiant says, and Franklin nods. Would you like to try out the other places? Franklin offers and receives a stink eye. He raises an eyebrow in response. Lady, between myself and my fellow undaunted men, you're going to have to deal with one of us no matter where the site is. So do you want to deal with me or potentially someone else? So there is a potential archaeology site here, Victor asks slowly as he goes over the forms that Professor Valiant had brought him. His islands were used as breeding grounds for numerous different types of shellfish, and there were colossal oyster beds, and if you didn't lock your doors in the area, crabs were getting in. Thankfully, it was fairly easy to make the little buggers edible, so it was just more food in the door, under its own power even. Yes, in this direct area, we will have a deep scanner down there to actually see if this is just a mineral deposit or actually a potential site. I see. Well, this seems to be easily understood. I do recommend that you try to avoid mirage whales. Yes, I've been informed of the danger. And there goes my final bit of hesitation, Victor says as he signs the forms and hands them back. Just like that? Yes, just like that, Victor says as he goes back to other pieces of legislation. Oh, okay then. Thank you, Professor Valiant says as she leaves the man to his work. Have a good day, ma'am, Victor says as she leaves. He's busy after all. A pharmaceutical production plant doesn't just assemble itself after all. It needs construction workers, materials, funding, and then employ engineers to actually produce things for sale. And it's chasing the creatures away. Mirage whales are reluctant to leave this area. Of course they are. This is where there's a lot of food to be had, Professor Valiant says as the local scans both chase away and keep track of the numerous mirage whales in the area. Her eyes say that they're far away and small to boot, but they're close enough that there's a little bit of movement that tells Valiance that they can make out her face as she looks at them. They're that close, even though they seem kilometers away. The scanners are turned up a bit to be especially annoying, and it still takes nearly an hour for the large, stubborn animals to get enough distance for them to activate the deep sensor. There is a roar of fury as a whale that had powered through the scans and hidden itself from them reveals itself and charges the boat. The line snaps and 36 people are sent tumbling through the air in a moment of sheer panic and confusion. Professor Valiance reaches into a pocket and channels Axiom through the center of the Kutha coin that Franklin gave to her. The Axiom around her outright seems to detonate in response. He's there, some kind of bright orange root vegetable in his teeth, even as he takes stock of the situation and the Axiom begins to roar. Hang on, he tells her in a deadly calm, no-nonsense tone. It's only now she notices that he's wearing neither shoes nor socks, and his usual coat is gone in favor of a dark green sleeveless vest. She feels a pull around her middle as reality starts to slow down, and she's reeled back to the badly damaged boat, which has Axiom almost visibly building around it. Her students are pulled back in around her, and there's a distorting feeling, and reality jumps. They're in the shallows of the nearby shoreline, and the furious call of the mirage whale has everyone look out to see the massive creature falling back down to the water. Then the Axiom twists again, and Franklin lands on the boat in a crouch. There's a crunching sound as he finishes biting through his snack, and he turns to regard the class. Everyone all right? No one's missing? Professor Valiance has never done a head count so quickly in her life, and confuses herself badly for a moment when she accidentally counts Franklin and goes over the number because of it. She takes a calming breath and manages to confirm that yes, scared they may be, but her students are safe. Oh, thank the goddess. I thought myself more a god than goddess, unless you're thanking my mother for some reason. Franklin jokes. What, your mother's a goddess? She'd have to be to put up with me. Franklin replies in a bone-dry tone, and the resulting laughter is more semi-hysterical relief than genuine mirth. But it feels good. There's another few crunches and a munching sound as Franklin finishes the little vegetable stick. The mirage whale is clearly upset in the ocean, and they just watch as the colossal animal vents its spleen. Franklin hadn't so much as touched it and left it without a proper target for its offended fury. The sound of a communicator's little tingle interrupts the fairly silent and mostly stunned boat, and Franklin answers it. Yes? Right, sorry about that. I gave an "oh shit" button to Professor Valiance and she used it. She was about to get crushed under a giant whale with her class. No casualties, but I think a few people may need a bit off to settle their nerves fully. These kids just had a brush with death. Not to mention the whale is still plenty pissed off, but unless it's willing to beach itself, we're out of reach. They can only hear his side of the conversation before he pauses and plucks at his shirt. Hang on, I'll ask. Ask what? Delicate Flutter asks, with her voice full of the eartheny trill. She's doing nothing to suppress the fact. She sounds like a mass of silver bells, tingling in the proper order to simulate a voice. Nietzsche wants to know if the green is properly fetching on me. She thinks yes. I have no earthly clue, so she wants backup. He says before mouthing, just say yes. I'm not going to say yes because you told me to. Delicate Flutter blurts out in an offended tone, and Franklin shifts as her voice is clearly picked up from the other side. I'm going to say yes because it does. It offsets that mess of your hair, and unlike the coat, doesn't look like you've been sprayed with red paint. Hey, I like that coat. Well, it doesn't like you. Bright red on that orange copper mess clashes like a rock slide. It makes you look like you've caught some kind of sickness. Delicate Flutter lambasts him, and there's outright laughter from the other side, and that prompts more amusement from the students. It's a lot more genuine this time as the hurt, offended expression from Franklin is dropped, and he chuckles too. He then quickly finishes his conversation with Nietzsche with a promise to be back soon enough. He just has to square things away here. The whale gives off a furious call, and Franklin turns to face it. All right, when the big guy calms down, I'll go out there and see if I can't salvage that scanning cluster, if it hasn't been shattered by now. Right. Look, I'd like to apologize for being so short with you before. While I was frustrated, you didn't deserve that level of harshness. Oh, yes, I did. I can be as dense as a black hole at times, and I know it. Understatement, Liana notes. True.